Hello everybody, welcome to Dr. Adita channel. Today I want to talk about another part of the physiology, which are the skin sensors and somatic senses. So in the skin we have several layers: the epidermis, the dermis, the hypodermis. Epidermis is so superficial. Exactly under the epidermis we have some sensors. For example, the Meissner's corpuscles, these dark purple ones are the Meissner's corpuscles, and also the Mercury cell exactly under the epidermis. And in the middle of the dermis we have the raphe corpuscles, and at the end on the hypodermis, which is another layer, we have the Pacinian corpuscles. So there is another brief explanation that where they are located. For example, the Merker's receptors, which are the sensory receptors, they are located exactly under the epidermis, in the dermis, and they are near to the epidermis. It means that they are more superficial, and they are responsible for the sense of steady pressure and also the texture. And the Meissner's corpuscles, they respond to the flutter and stroking movement, and they are in the capsule, which is the connective tissue. A little deeper, they are the Pacinian corpuscles, exactly under the dermis, in the hypodermis, and they are capsulated too. They are responsible for the vibration. It means that the Meissner's corpuscles, which are in the capsule, and also the Pacinian corpuscles, which are in the capsule, as you see, the Pacinian corpuscles, the capsule is more dense, and in here it is not so dense. So this is responsible for the pressure, and also this is responsible for the pressure too. But what kind of pressure? A pressure which contains vibration, a pressure which is, for example, a stroking movement, and also to the flutter and a stroking movement. It means that they are responsible for more strong pressures. But what happens for the Merker's receptors? They are sensory too, but they are responsible for the steady pressure and also the texture. And in here we have raphe corpuscles. They are responsible to the skin stretch. And we have some sensory nerves too in here, which are free endings. For example, free nerve ending of nociceptor response to the pain, for example. So free nerve endings are at the end of the hair too. For example, this is a hair, the root of the hair, and we have a free nerve ending in here too. So in here, there is a box which talks about these receptors, as I told you. For example, free nerve endings. They are stimulated because of the various touch and also pressure stimuli. Free nerve ending because of the touch and also pressure. And they are located where? Around hair root and under the surface of the skin. For example, they are in here, under the surface of the skin. They are unmyelinated nerve endings. There is no myelination for them, so the speed is slow. And the adaptation is variable. The adaptation can be tonic, slow, or for example, basic, fast adaptation. For them, for these free nerve endings, the adaptation is variable. The Meissner's corpuscles and also the Pacinian corpuscles, they are a little deeper and than these free nerve endings. For example, they were, for example, some of them under the skin, exactly under the surface of the skin. But in here, the Meissner's corpuscles, they are responsible for the flutter and also stroking. And they are in the superficial layers of the skin, but Pacinian corpuscles are a little deeper. And the Meissner's corpuscles are encapsulated in the connective tissue. The Pacinian corpuscles are encapsulated in the connective tissue. So both are capsulated. And for them, the adaptation is rapid. It means it is phasic. It means that, for example, if the pressure is happening continuously, the action potential may stop, but the stimulus and stimuli exist, but action potential stops. But about the raphe corpuscles, they will be stimulated because of the stretch of the skin, and they are located deep layers of the skin, and they are in large nerve endings, and the adaptation for them is slow, it is tonic. It means that it takes time, so the action potential will be with less frequency. So the action potential, the duration of the time for action potential will be more, but it takes a lot of time, so it is a tonic adaptation. For the Merkel's receptors, we have, they will be stimulated because of the steady pressure and also the texture. They are located superficial layers of the skin. Look, the Meissner's corpuscle and also Merkel's receptors, they are located a little more superficial. Then the raphe corpuscles, and finally the Pacinian corpuscles. So they are, the Merkel's receptors are located superficial layers of skin, and they are located in the large nerve endings. And in fact, the adaptation for them is slow. And in here, we want to see how these fine touch proprioception and also the vibration or nociception will bring to the nerve and will go to the nerve. For example, the fine touch proprioception and vibration happens, or for example, the nociceptor temperature or the touch in here happens. They will go to the dorsal root ganglion of the spinal cord in here. For example, right now I'm going to talk about one of them, for example, nociception and temperature. which the information is going to the spinal cord, and then it will go to the thalamus, and then it will go to the sensory cortex. But this track in here, which brings the information of the nociception and also temperature, is called the spinothalamic tract. And this information about fine touch, proprioception, and vibration is will go to the medulla oblongata, and then it will cross, and this is called the medial meniscus tract. And in here, in fact, this will cross the spinal cord, but the fine touch, proprioception, vibration will not cross the spinal cord. It will go ipsilateral up, and at medulla oblongata, it will cross, and it has a cross section, and then it will go to the thalamus. As you see, everything which is which is filled in here, for example, at the left, the information is going to the right part of the cortex, and everything which is felt at the, for example, right, is going to the left part of the cortex. It means that it will go to the opposite side, to the sensory cortex, which is called the postcentral gyrus. So I want to explain more what happens. The fine touch, proprioception, and also vibration, these information from those Pacinian corpuscles, Meissner's corpuscles, they will bring the information in here to the dorsal root ganglion, and then the information from the primary sensory neuron will go up to the medulla oblongata. At the medulla oblongata, it has a cross section, then it will make the medial meniscal tract, and it will go to the thalamus, and here this nerve is called the secondary sensory neuron. In fact, this is the primary, the blue one is primary, the red one is secondary, and here we have the tertiary sensory neuron. And so we have 3 different nerves in here, and nociception and temperature and for example the coarse touch, they are bringing the information to the spinal cord, and exactly at the level of the spinal cord there is a cross section, and this is the spinothalamic tract. It means from the spinal cord to the thalamus. So it in here I have the secondary sensory neuron, which goes up, and then tertiary sensory neuron, which goes to the cortex, to the post central gyrus, which is responsible for the sense, and it will bring the information there, analyze there, and finally the corticospinal tract from the cortex will come down for the movement and for the orders of the movements of the muscles, for example, or any kind of answer and order. So the pain, temperature, and coarse touch have a cross section in here in the spinal cord, but the fine touch, proprioception, vibration have cross section at medulla oblongata, and that's it. So in here there is an interesting slide which talks about how these and where these sensory information is going. For example, this is the sensory area, the postcentral gyrus, the precentral gyrus, the motor area, and here there is a cross section, and we are watching at the sensory part and also the motor area. For example, at the middle in here, the middle is for the senses of the genital, the foot, and also toes, lower leg, upper leg, pelvis, trunk, neck, and upper arm, lower arm, hand, fingers. As you see, the area which is responsible for the sensory information, which means that sensory information from hand and finger and thumb will come to this part. I just wanted to tell you that this part is bigger than these parts. It means that the sensory information about hand, finger, and thumb are more important. It means that it needs more, and they are a lot and huge, and they need more analysis. So this part is huge and big in comparison with the neck, in comparison with the pelvis, in comparison with the leg even. So this part is bigger, the sensory information about it. It means that in fact we are gathering more information through our hands and fingers and thumb, and also the upper face too. And as you see, for the lips we have a bigger part too. It means that there are lots of senses in here, which lots of sensory information can be gathered, and teeth and tongue. And in here we have the motor area, which is in here foot and toes area, the lower leg, upper leg, pelvis. And in here, as you see, the facial expression, the fingers and the hand again have a bigger part. It means that the movement of the hand and finger and thumb, and also the facial expressions, the salivation, vocalization, and mastication, and swallowing, as you see, the swallowing has a big part too. It means that the movements of these parts is important, and it is more important than these parts. It means that there are lots of neurons in here. It means that the receptor field, as we talked about it in previous slides and in previous videos, the receptor field for example, the thumb and finger and hand are smaller. It means that there are more neurons in here, and each neuron is responsible for one small part. So that is why these parts, which are responsible for the movement of the, for example, hand and facial expressions, are bigger. As you see, for remembering this, the hands of a person and also the lip of a person can be big, but the other parts are small. It means that there are more informations related to these parts, which bring to the nerve, which bring to the brain, and there are more informations from the brain to these parts for the movement, for their function. that's it. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the nociceptors. The nociceptors initiate protective response, and also the classes of somatosensory nerve fibers and their speed, and also the comparison, and little by little their function and also their mechanism.